Hello and welcome. This is the ShrubSMP Season 2 World Download. And boy oh boy, there is an absolute ton to see on this server. Coming off of Season 1's World Download Tour, there definitely was a step up. We are hovering over in creative mode here. This world was done in version 1.17.1. And I have opened the world download. I am hovering above with the spawn town behind me, and even the grand scope and amount of buildings in this spawn town is impressive, as is so many other things on this server. It's going to be hard to pack it all in this episode, but we're going to follow the agenda, and that is to go to the original spawn point and then head on over to my starter base, which is just below me here. Probably see as much as is humanly possible out there in Spawn Town, because wow, there's so much to see. And even as I pan around, look at, there's builds all over the place just outside of Spawn. And I've been all over this world. There is really a lot to see out there, and I'll try to get through as much of it as is possible. And the main feature of this world, which was built by a really amazing builder, which became the highlight of the season and pretty much universally every player's favorite build, is the Twee. And you will see what that is when we get there at the end. But for now, let's head on over to the original spawn point, see what that looks like, and then get down to my starter base. Okay, I'm standing over here at the world spawn point, and this is where you would spawn in when you join the world. And there is a little building here where the administrators built this little structure. It's got the server rules on the inside, just for anybody new who's stopping in. And as per the usual, this area got exploded by a lot of creepers very often during the season when players would spawn in, because it was dark over here and there were always monsters at night. Of course, right behind me, somebody left a floating tree. Since we're in creative, let's go ahead and fix that up, because that's just something you're not supposed to do. That's a really bad form right there. But anyway, like I said, creeper hole. Now, I forget how this occurred, but there was a creeper hole that then became there's some cats down there, that became a large hole, and then if you follow that down, it goes into an underground tunnel system just below spawn that really started to collect monsters. When zombies, especially, when they hold items, they stay there forever, and there caused some lag on the server, and we had to go down there and clear them out. But anyway, just in terms of the story around spawn, like we had said, there was always these creatures that would show up, and then the creepers would constantly be blowing up. And now if I just kind of hop up into the sky, we can see we were coming down here often. We got plenty of torches around to light up the area. There's still some the ground cover. You can see this is an obvious cover-up job right here. So this is what we were doing. We were just putting dirt over the giant holes where there were multiple creeper explosions. There's an explosion there. But no central spawn in a multiplayer world will be complete without destruction. So once we got that under control, the administrators built the spawn building here with the rules inside. And again, just looking around, there's just so much to see. So that's the spawn, and then I headed off in that direction, right over there with my signature melon and pumpkin buildings. And once again, we'll see now that I built into a little hobbit hole on the side of the mountain. Okay, we're over here in the front yard, so to speak, of my little hobbit hole side mountain starter build. And a couple features stand out that are different from Season 1, and shows how I learned a little bit more about Minecraft and how to do detailing, especially. So you can already see on the ground behind me, there's some pathing and there's texture. There's different blocks scattered throughout that kind of helps break up the ground and show that there's a little more texture to the floor. That's a pretty basic Minecraft thing that I hadn't done before, and started to do it a little more often here in Season 2, and continue to do it in future seasons. And as we look around, it's not going to be hard to determine that there is at least one of every growing thing to the best of my ability, as I do in every starter area that I build. And this one was kind of neat. When I found this little hole in the side of the cave that we're going to go walk into my base and take a little tour, I found that it was right next to this little small brook, I guess, or even little river. It's not even a river, it's like a creek. And I have developed detailing for the entire area, including underwater, with some of the coral and, using bone meal to grow up the vegetation under there. We even have some sea pickles for light, as you can see right in front of me. Oh, just fell in the water, so I got my first boating advancement there. And the similar water fountain that I had in Season 1. And one of the funny things about these versions of Minecraft is if you stick a salmon right into this flowing water, he stays there forever, and it's kind of funny to see him, especially when he goes up top. So that's kind of neat. I didn't name him. I should put a name for this guy. That's one thing I also have done in future seasons, is naming multiple animals, especially special ones like this guy here. But yeah, more detailing that I did is the campfires were relatively new and I haven't used them as building blocks. So we did this as kind of like a roof to the hay storage over here. And our signature melons and pumpkins, like we mentioned, the farms on the inside there. Very new for me at the time, and including, you know, a little landscaping, but the main part of the build was the Hobbit hole theme, but we used stone instead of wood. Just having little circles cut out with things on the inside that we're going to go check out right now. Alright, as we head over the bridge into the entrance, the first thing we're going to see is all of my final gear. Again, once you leave a Minecraft world, one of the traditional things to do is to leave all your belongings at your entrance so that other players who use the world download can see what you had. And once again, no surprise for me, full netherite armor with maximum enchantments and full netherite tools. Well, almost full netherite tools. I must have lost some because I'm surprised that I don't have netherite axes. But regardless, that's the equipment that I had. And I actually put out, I got all these shulker boxes full of materials that I was collecting along the way. So you other players can't see in your own end chest. So what I did was empty it out into a regular chest so people could check that out as well. We have our little security guard Spot over here, and he's just standing guard. But the real secret about Spot is he'll chase away creepers, but to be fair, they're not going to get all that close, nor are zombies, because this carpet trick doesn't allow monsters to walk over them like I can. And then as we walk downstairs, what do we see? We see the famous cactus farm with, let's see how many cactus are in there. Not too bad, about half a stack. I don't know if I ever made any green dye in this world, but again, this really just gives an indication, like a clock, of how long that I was in the world, and once again, being so close to spawn, it probably ran a lot more often. Before we head down to the living quarters, again, one thing that's standing out to me is remembering to use all of these little details to kind of add to the visual effect of the area. Give some texture, give some differences. Instead of just having plain stone on the ground, we have a mixture of blocks that gives a little bit of texture and variety to the area. We have some vegetation that is hanging from the ceiling and even like a wood beam across. So I started to get a little more apt with providing layering details and textures and variety to my builds, as we can see here compared to last season in season 1. The old sheep, we obviously have some wool collection. That's a standard that I put in my early builds. So, we're at the entrance. Day 1 starter home. Let's go inside. This, I know, before I go in there, is a completely humble abode. This was just enough to get started before I would go out exploring and head out to make the Dark Castle 2.0. Here's my chicken farm again. Lots of recurring themes from the last time where we can take our eggs. I'm in creative mode, so they're not going to go down in inventory. Throw them against the wall. Let's see if we get a 4. Nope, just a 1. Sometimes you can get a 4 for 1 when an egg breaks. That's a really, really, really lucky group of chickens. Not this time, but hey. It's a great food source and early way of getting started in the world. It's just something I do almost completely by habit at this point, because I think it's in every single world that we've done since. You get a few furnaces in place, a bone meal generator, and storage. You just get some simple storage and a bed, which this time I decorated it just a little bit to make it a little more cozy than one bed just sitting all off by itself. In this empty alcove, I had my first enchantment set up, and now that I'm thinking about it, and it's not here, I relocated it. I just totally moved it. I moved it to the Dark Castle instead of leaving it in place and making a second one. That's material conservation right there. So this is it. This was the starter area. Very, very, very basic because I went off. Oh, wait, we almost forgot the pumpkin and melon farm collection area over here. So these are the automatic ones while we have the decorative ones on the outside. And then we have another portal. And that's pretty much it. So let's finish off the speed run of this starter house because there are just so many other things to see. This is kind of a rudimentary bee farm. You can see it from the outside. It collects my honey and honeycomb, and it's automatic. So this was my first redstone build that I've ever made on. There wasn't really a good redstone build on season 1. This is the season 2 redstone build. What it does is it automatically detects and collects the honey with glass bottles and uses shears to collect the honeycomb when the beehives on the inside reach a certain level. Now, heading up to the second floor here, there's nothing up here but a couple dioramas. My favorite little thing to do is to build some themed remembrances of events. This one says, the classic first village raid, Chaos, July 13, 2021. There's nothing on the inside, it's just a door, because this is a diorama. I got a cookie that said it's a reward. I guess that has to go with the meme that was going on at the time. And it's shaped like a villager house because this was a raid that happened in a local village that was a complete accident, and we had to fight it off with very early game tools and materials. It was chaos, and we got it done, so I built this diorama to remember it. And of course, we had our dragon fight. Just like Season 1, there was a non-weapon that was used to defeat the dragon, and it was spyglasses. We all whacked the dragon with spyglasses, partly because they were a relatively new item in this version, and that's why we used it as our weapon. But that's the only dioramas that I had, so when I was looking around this world, just these two events, because now that we think about it, I believe this season was actually a little shorter compared to other ones, and that's kind of surprising to think when we're going to see how many grand and wide variety of extremely cool builds that are out there. So let's head on out of the starter area, down into the Nether, and go find my Dark Castle. Alright, before we head off down in that direction where the Dark Castle is, we want to quick check out something that the builders did this season, really stepped it up with a central Nether hub. We have the shadowing under the floor here, which is a cool feature, but there's tunnels in every direction that are labeled for all kind of different folks on the server and their different builds and their bases. And this was just a really neat way to start incorporating the Nether as a central build. This particular portal goes directly into the center of Spawn Town, that then everybody can find their way into one central spot and then go off and find your way to your base. So this was our next evolution, shall we say, of a Nether hub, and as we'll see in episode 3, 4, and 5, it just continued to get even more amazing from there. But for now, let's head over to the Dark Castle 2.0 down the hallway and check out my main build, which for me was a huge step up. Alright, there's my portal up ahead, and we have a little guard, Tiberius here. Tiberius the... I don't think that's a tabby. Yeah, either way, Tiberius the cat is off covering for Dark Castle 2.0. Let's head on in and see where it leads us. Alright, right away I can see I have an unfinished interior with this waterway, which now I know exactly where we are. So before we go check out the castle itself, I made, so again, like I was trying to learn some redstone. And one of the issues with doing automatic item sorting is to bring an elevator. You use an elevator to bring items from a chest that you can put things into to then dispense into a waterway or some other way of distributing them down into the storage system themselves. So I learned how to put this little redstone component together to be able to dispense. Let's test it out. I have a stack of grass here in my inventory. Let's throw it in there and you can see it going down. See all the redstone activating, and what it's actually doing is it's dispensing one at a time out into this water stream, and the water stream carries the blocks down into the storage system, and it's a traditional item sorting storage system where when it lands in the matching block, it gets sucked into the hopper and then down into the chest of its associated block. I started to do that on this wing of the castle, intending to expand it all the way out here. It didn't quite get that far, that's why we have this big empty space. But let's go off into the main part of the castle now and check out what this thing looked like before we see the outside. And probably the newest thing that I had ever done in Minecraft at the time, which was terraforming and external design. But as we can see, I just have some brief little farming. I got a map of the area right there. And what really will stand out to see before we get out there is that the main part of the castle, and the part we were just in, which extends out the back, cuts through an entire mountain. And that is because of natural Minecraft generation that I saw when I came across this area and said, I just have to build here, and wait till you see it because it is going to scream a building belongs here, and that's exactly what I did. We have our manual farms out here, sugarcane and I think potatoes and wheat and carrots right out here. I would just have to go around and collect them. Again, no automatic farms for me, but plenty of villagers as we see, more librarians and a little bit of everything in here in the villager trading hall off on this wing of the Dark Castle. And here is my enchantment setup that I mentioned that I moved from the starter house, and we have the last brain cell. The last brain cell, I forget the lore on that guy, but that had to do with obviously enchanting and using your brain. And then the last wing of the Dark Castle was empty, and then I decided I had the roofing system and everything else in. I didn't know what to do, so at the very last second, at the end of the season, I called it the flex room. So we just made a floor as I hop up in creative mode here, based on all the valuables I had in my hand. These are all the diamonds that I had, and all of the crying obsidian and gold and emeralds. We just put them into a pattern on the floor, and that's what I did with all my valuables at the end of the season. But the big thing for me this season was the external work, so let's head on outside and fly around the Dark Castle and really get a sense of scope for what that mountain looks like and how I transformed the outer perimeter into something that's a really scenic view. Alright, we're going to head out the front gates here and pop up into the air and fly out and give a turn around and wait until you see this mountain, of which I found while I was kind of boating along, exploring the wilderness. I actually built a little dock down there from the inside out and saw this arch with the water flowing in front of it. I think that was natural and said, wow, this deserves to have a build put inside it. And that's what I did. I went ahead and flattened out the back of it. We built the Dark Castle, and there's actually a tower next to the Dark Castle, which kind of gives some height to it to compare to the giant size of the mountain. And this is the alcove where the two towers for the entrance are. And over there, just off to the side, a creeper farm so that we can build rockets to get around easier on the server. But yeah, that was basically it. And like I said, little experimenting that I was able to do here and pull off was some terraforming and just adding some light vegetation and greenery. A lot of the greenery and vegetation, these vines and the leaves and such, were all, and those lichen, you know, to add a little glowing light at night. It was all added by hand, along with a little shaping, some added stone here and there to get the shape of the top just right. And it was something I had never done before, and I got a little good at it. And to be honest, let me zoom in down there. You can see just this wide variety of blocks leading into the entrance of the Dark Castle. But yeah, every little thing from those types of details, the more that you can put in, the more organic the structure actually looks. Because when I first came here, this was almost entirely stone. And once we built the Dark Castle on the inside, I went to work on the outside. And I really do think that even though it's relatively straightforward and simple, between the shape of it and the added little extra details, makes it look like it's been here for quite some time, and the inhabitants of the Dark Castle maybe boated in here just like I did one day and set up shop, got their civilization started, and are connected in some way through that Nether and the Nether portal with the rest of the subscribers on the server. So once again, as I just had a bee visit me up here on top of the tower, preparing to do this transition to the cinematic views that we're going to do. This was a shorter season. We were able to pack in this build inside of this mountain and give it a little bit of life. But boy, oh boy, did a lot of the other builders do some incredible things. And it's time to go ahead and show off as much of that as we can do now. And while it's been a lot of fun reminiscing on some of my builds from Season 2, it's now time to enjoy a cinematic montage of so many of the talented builds by the talented builders here on the ShrubSMP, culminating with the piece de resistance, the Twee, built by one of our more talented builders indeed, that everybody, like I mentioned, agreed was the most incredible thing that we had all ever seen as far as Season 2 was involved. And then at the end, we'll pluck out our Easter egg to carry forward this into Season 7. So let's roll that montage.